So, you think your night shift at the 24-hour convenience store is rough? At least your biggest threat is someone trying to steal a bag of chips without paying. Tonight, we're dialing the misery up to 11 and swapping your fluorescent lights for a single, sputtering torch that's more interested in going out than showing you the knife-wielding figure in the alleyway. Forget a steady paycheck. You get paid in public distrust and the occasional bucket of questionable liquid tossed from an overhead window. Your job is simple. Walk around in the dark until someone either stabs you or the sun comes up. Greetings. My dears, settle in comfortably for another relaxing excursion into the absolute misery of the past. Take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you enjoy systematically dismantling any romantic notions you ever had about the past. It really helps the channel continue its very important work of historical disillusionment. Comment below with the medieval job you think you'd be assigned and how long you'd last before getting fired or, exiled. I'm curious about your doomed career paths. The first thing you realize about your new career is that there was no application process. There was no interview, no discussion of benefits, and certainly no pension plan. There was only a gruff man-at-arms, smelling faintly of sour ale, and desperation, pointing a gaunted finger at you in a crowded tavern. You were the chosen one, not because of your bravery or skills, but because you were too slow to slip out the back when they started looking for volunteers. Congratulations, you've landed the medieval equivalent of an unpaid internship, where the primary occupational hazard isn't paper cuts, but actual cuts. From papers to swords, it's a lateral move in misery. They hand you your uniform, a coarse woolen tunic that feels like it was woven from thistles and regret. It's heavy, it's damp, and it carries the faint, ghostly scent of the last poor soul who wore it. You suspect he didn't retire. On top goes a hardened leather jerkin that offers all the protection of a cardboard box against anything sharper than a harsh word. Your helmet is a simple iron cap that pinches your ears and serves mostly to amplify the sound of your own panicked breathing. The star of the show, your primary tool, is a 6-foot pole with a rusty metal spike on the end of halberd. They call. It's heavy, unwieldy, and you have a sneaking suspicion you're more likely to trip over it and impale yourself than you are to deter a determined thief. Your other piece of cutting-edge technology is the lantern. It's a box with thin, greasy horn panels and a single stinking tallow candle inside. Its light barely extends 3 feet, creating a tiny, fragile bubble of visibility in an ocean of absolute blackness. This lantern has 2 settings, barely visible and out. You are now an official guardian of the night, a warden of the peace for the town of Mudwater upon Grime, a place whose name is its most accurate feature. Your beat begins the moment the sun bleeds out of the sky, leaving behind a bruised, purple twilight. The town gates have been barred, the portcullis dropped with a deafening clang that echoes in your bones. That sound isn't for keeping invaders out, it's for keeping you in. With everyone else tucked away behind their shuttered windows and bolted doors, you are now locked in with all the things that thrive in the dark. Your first few steps are tentative, the thick, sucking mud of the main thoroughfare, trying to claim your worn leather boots with every stride. The silence is the next thing that hits you. It's not a peaceful silence. It's a heavy, oppressive blanket, punctuated by sounds that modernity has thankfully erased. The skittering of rats, and they are legion, just beyond the reach of your light. the low moan of the wind as it funnels through narrow, crooked alleyways, sounding unnervingly like a man in pain. The sudden, sharp cry of a cat that you pray is a cat. The air itself is an assault. The day's stench of unwashed bodies, animal droppings, and rotting refuse in the gutters seems to congeal in the cold night air, becoming a thick, almost chewable miasma. You pull your collar up, a useless gesture. You can taste the filth on the back of your tongue. They told you to uphold the peace, which you're quickly realizing is a fancy way of saying, be the first one to find the bodies. Your job isn't to prevent crime. It's to be a witness, a deterrent born of pity. Who would rob a house when there's a walking tragedy with a pointy stick right outside? You pass the butcher's shop, the smell of old blood hanging heavy in the air. The windows are dark. You pass the bakery, the faint, ghostly scent of bread, a cruel reminder of the warm, safe place you are not. Every doorway is a gaping maw of blackness, a potential ambush. Every corner you turn is a fresh roll of the dice. You hold the halberd in a white-knuckled grip, trying to remember the one clumsy training move they showed you. Was it thrust, and then swing, or swing, and then get stabbed while you're off balance? This isn't just a job. It's a full immersion experience in why anxiety was invented. An hour into your shift, a window creaks open above you. You freeze, heart hammering against. Your ribs instinctively raising your lantern. A dark shape leans out. Your life flashes before your eyes, a rather short and unimpressive film. Then, a cascade of liquid splashes onto the street just inches from your feet, the foul steam rising in the cold air. The window slams shut. You didn't even get a look out below. Just a casual, mid-evening waste disposal. You are not a guard. You are part of the sanitation infrastructure, the last line of defense before the gutter. You continue your walk, the squelch of your boots now accompanied by a new, more disgusting sound. You round the corner into the market square. It's a wide, open space, which should be a relief, but it's not. The moonlight, weak as it is, casts long, distorted shadows from the empty market stalls. Each one looks like a hunched figure, waiting. You see a flicker of movement to your left. You spin around, halberd held out clumsily, your lantern swinging wildly and threatening to extinguish itself. It's just a loose piece of canvas flapping in the wind. You let out a breath you didn't realize you were holding, your whole body trembling. You're not cut out for this. You're not a warrior or a hero. You're the guy who gets startled by a stray cat, the one who would absolutely investigate a strange noise in a horror movie and get immediately dispatched. And you have 9 more hours of this until sunrise. You glance up at the moon, your only silent companion in this suffocating darkness. It's indifferent, a cold silver coin in a sea of ink. It offers no comfort. It just watches. You are alone. You are cold, and you are terrified. And this is only Monday. The city breathes around you, a sleeping beast with terrible dreams. And you're just a flea on its back, hoping not to get scratched off before morning. Your route takes you towards the poorer quarter, the part of town they call the Tangle, for its maze of impossibly narrow, intersecting alleys. The wealthy burghers, in their stone houses on the hill, can afford their own guards. Your jurisdiction is the forgotten, the desperate, the places where shadows are deeper and knives are sharper. This is where the real work begins. This is where you earn your pittance of a few coins a week. The entrance to the tangle is a narrow archway, darker than the rest of the street, like a wound in the side of the city. Taking a deep breath that does you absolutely no good, you step through, plunging from the frying pan of the town square into the literal fire of whatever hell awaits you in the twisting guts of the city. The comforting, familiar squelch of mud is replaced by the hard, uneven surface of cobblestones, slick with who knows what. The air grows thicker, the buildings leaning in so closely overhead that you can barely see the sky. Here, your lantern feels even more pathetic, its light swallowed by the oppressive gloom. The sounds change too. The scurrying is louder, closer. You hear hushed whispers from shuttered windows, a sudden choked-off laugh from a darkened doorway. You are an outsider. Here, a representative of a law that barely exists in daylight and is a complete fiction at night. You are not a deterrent. You are a target, an opportunity. A walking collection of second-hand equipment that might be worth a few pennies to the right person. A person who is almost certainly hiding just around the next corner, listening to the telltale jingle of your ill-fitting gear and the frantic, unsteady rhythm of your heart. You tighten your grip on the halberd, the cold metal a poor substitute for actual confidence. Your shift has just begun, and you're already certain you're not going to make it. In the tangle, the laws of architecture and common sense have completely broken down. Buildings sag against each other for support like drunken friends after a long night. Upper floors jut out over the alleyways, forming a makeshift roof that blocks out what little moonlight might have helped you. Welcome to the tangle, where the building code is a suggestion and gravity is an opinion. You are effectively walking through a series of dark, foul-smelling tunnels. The acoustics are a nightmare. Every sound is amplified and distorted, bouncing off the damp stone and timber walls. Your own footsteps sound like a clumsy giant is following you. The drip of water from an overflowing drainpipe sounds like someone sharpening a blade. Trying to identify a sound in the dark is like trying to diagnose a complex software bug by listening to the hum of your computer. The information is there, but it's useless and probably misleading. You're not on patrol. You're on a guided tour of every bad decision ever made in this city. Suddenly, a door you hadn't even seen swings open, spilling a rectangle of yellow. Light and a wave of raucous, slurred singing into the alley. A man stumbles out, nearly colliding with you. He's massive, with a beard that looks like it has things living in it, and he smells powerfully of cheap, potent mead. He squints at you, his eyes struggling to focus. For a moment, you see your own grim future reflected in them. Another lost soul swallowed by the city's underbelly. Oh, he slurs, looking at your halberd. It's the ... the walking candlestick. He pats your shoulder with a hand the size of a small ham, a gesture that's probably meant to be friendly, but feels more like a structural test of your skeleton. Keep the ... the ghosts away, eh? He lets out a booming laugh that echoes down the alley, then stumbles off into the darkness, his singing gradually fading. You're left with your heart pounding again. That was it. No knife, no fight, just a brief, baffling human interaction. But it's a stark reminder that you are not alone. The city isn't sleeping. It's just resting its eyes, and parts of it are wide awake, drunk, and unpredictable. You continue your route, feeling more exposed than ever. Your primary skill, you realize, is looking terrified in a professional capacity. The cold is a more persistent enemy than any drunkard. It's a physical presence, seeping through your cheap wool and leather, settling deep into your bones. It makes your joints ache and your fingers feel clumsy and numb on the shaft of your puller. You long for a fire, for a thick blanket, for anything other than this creeping, relentless chill. You think about your bed, a simple straw-stuffed mattress on the floor of a shared room, smelling perpetually of dust and tired men. Right now, it seems like the pinnacle of luxury, a paradise you would give anything to return to. This job makes you appreciate the simple things, like not being cold, not being terrified, and not being actively stalked by the physical embodiment of urban decay. It's the kind of ironic gratitude that only comes from deep, soul-crushing misery. You pass an alley narrower than the rest, a mere crack between two leaning tenements. A foul stench, worse than the usual street perfume, wafts out. It's the smell of sickness, of the bloody flux or the sweating sickness you've heard whispered about. You instinctively hold your breath and hurry past. The Black Death may be a memory, but its smaller, less famous cousins are still active members of the community, and you have no desire to meet them. Your job is to watch for assassins in the shadows, not to die from invisible demons in the air. Then you hear it. A loud crash from a small courtyard just ahead, followed by a frantic, high-pitched squeal. This is it. This is not a drill. This is the moment your pointless wandering becomes a life-or-death situation. Every nerve in your body screams at you to turn and run, to melt back into the shadows and pretend you heard nothing. But the man-at-arms' gruff voice echoes in your memory. You hear trouble. You are the trouble's trouble. It sounded a lot more inspiring when he said it in a tavern. Now it just sounds like a horribly written death sentence. You flatten yourself against a wall, the cold, damp stone shocking through your tunic. You inch forward, your halberd held before you like a very long, very useless security blanket. You peek around the corner. The courtyard is small, cluttered with discarded crates and barrels. In the center, illuminated by a stray beam of moonlight, is the source of the chaos. It's not a band of ruthless cutthroats or a clandestine meeting of conspirators. It's a pig, a very large, very angry pig, which has apparently escaped its sty and knocked over a stack of empty wooden buckets. It glares at you, snorts indignantly, as if this is somehow your fault, and then trots off down another alley. You stand there for a full minute, your body buzzing with adrenaline that has nowhere to go. You feel a wave of immense, world-altering relief, followed immediately by a profound sense of stupidity. You almost met your end because of rogue livestock. You risked your life for a farm animal on a midnight stroll. It's a new low, even for you. The tension drains away, leaving you feeling hollow and exhausted. This job is a cruel joke. It's 99% mind-numbing boredom and bone-deep cold, and 1% sheer, pants-wetting terror over absolutely nothing. Every corner is a surprise party, where the surprise is possibly a shiv, but is more likely to be a pig. You lean against the wall and close your eyes, just for a second. The exhaustion is overwhelming. How many hours left? 3? 4? Time seems to stretch and warp in the darkness. Each minute feels like an hour, and the dawn feels like a distant, mythical event that will never actually arrive. You think of The people sleeping soundly in their beds, warm and safe. They have no idea who is walking their streets. They have no idea that their first line of defense against the terrors of the night is a man who is just outsmarted by a pig. You push yourself off the wall and continue your patrol, the humor of the situation slowly curdling into a familiar, quiet despair. You are tired, you are cold, and you are utterly, completely, and comically in over your head. The job isn't about courage. It's about endurance. It's about enduring the fear, the filth, and the futility, all for the promise of a few coins and the right to do it all again tomorrow night. And as you step back into the main alley, you hear another sound, different this time. It's not a pig, and it's not a drunk. It's the soft, deliberate scrape of a leather boot on cobblestone, coming from the darkness just ahead of you. And it's getting closer. A pig was the warm-up act. The main performance, it seems, is about to begin. You freeze, your knuckles white on the cold wood of the halberd. This is different. The drunkard stumbled, the pig scrambled, but this sound is methodical, deliberate. The sound of someone who belongs in the dark, someone who knows these alleys. Your mind races through your very limited combat training, which feels about as useful as remembering a nursery rhyme in the face of a wolf. The footsteps stop. A silhouette detaches itself from the deeper shadows about 20 feet away. It's a man, tall and wiry, holding a polearm similar to your own, but with an ease that makes your clumsy grip feel pathetic. He doesn't raise his weapon. He just stands there, watching you, a predator assessing new prey. Your lantern light flickers across his face, revealing a landscape of scars and deep-set, tired eyes. His face looked like a roadmap of every bad night in this city's history. This is not a thief. This is your colleague. You're the new one, he says. It's not a question. His voice is a low, gravelly rasp, the sound of rust and disuse. The one they pulled out of the bottom of a barrel. At the salty siren, he knows where they found you. Of course, he does. News in the Watch travels faster than disease, and is often just as unpleasant. You manage a nod, your throat suddenly too dry to speak. He takes a slow step forward, and you flinch. A ghost of a smirk touches his lips. Relax, pig spooker. If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. So he saw that too. Wonderful. Your reputation precedes you. Name's Giles, he says, stopping a few feet from you. He doesn't offer a hand. I've been walking these streets since before you were a bad idea in your father's head. The last boy on this route, Thomas, he lasted 2 weeks. Giles leans against the wall, perfectly at ease. Got ambitious. Heard a scream down by the tannery. Went to play the hero. We found him in the morning. The tanner's dog had chewed off most of his face. He says this with the flat, emotionless tone of someone reciting a grocery list. He wasn't offering advice. He was delivering a verbal list of all the ways you were going to die. Let me give you the only lesson you'll ever need, Giles continues, his gaze sweeping the oppressive darkness around you. You are not law. You are not a soldier. You are a scarecrow. Your job is to be seen, to carry the lantern, and to make enough noise that any sensible thief will decide to rob the next street over. That's it. He points the butt of his halberd towards the alley where you heard the pig. You investigate a noise, you die. You follow a scream, you die. You get a sudden rush of courage and decide to confront a group of men in an alley ... You die in a way they'll tell stories about. This orientation is the medieval equivalent of a senior employee telling you on your first day that the fire escape leads to a pit of spikes and the coffee machine is poisonous. He looks you up and down, his expression a mixture of pity and contempt. You look like a stiff breeze would kill you. So just walk, look pathetic, and count the hours. The city doesn't pay you to be a hero. It pays you to be a plausible excuse for why no one else did anything. He's about to turn and leave when he pauses, looking back at you as if remembering a final, delightful piece of bad news. Oh, and one more thing. Makes your pathetic job even more interesting. He leans in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Word is Lord Valerius is hiding somewhere in the tangle. Skip town after the Duke found out who was really visiting the Duchess's chambers at night. You've heard of Lord Valerius, a minor noble with major ambitions and a famous lack of judgment. The Duke's put a purse of gold on his head. A big one, big enough to make honest men forget their honesty. Giles smiles, and it's a terrifying sight. So now, the tangle isn't just full of desperate thieves and drunks. It's also crawling with professionals. Men who kill for a living, who know how to move in the dark, and who don't like witnesses. He claps you on the shoulder, the same gesture the drunkard made, but this one feels like a death sentence. So, when you see a shadow that seems a little too still, a little too quiet, it's probably not just a shadow, and it's definitely not looking for a lost pig. Congratulations, you've just been upgraded from potential victim to inconvenient witness. Your job has a new, exciting dimension of terror. Before, you were worried about a random knife in the ribs. Now you have to worry about a professionally aimed crossbow bolt from a rooftop. Giles melts back into the darkness, leaving you alone with a fresh, potent batch of paranoia. The weight of your iron cap suddenly feels heavier. The pathetic glow of your lantern feels obscenely bright, like a giant "stab here" sign. Every darkened window, every high rooftop, every recessed doorway is now a potential assassin's nest. You are a slow-moving target in the middle of a hunting ground. Your slow, meandering patrol route now feels like a death march. You try to make yourself smaller, to walk closer to the walls, to dim your lantern by turning the paneled side away, but it all feels useless. You are the only source of light in this part of the city. You might as well be ringing a dinner bell. You pass a cross alley and peer down it, your heart in your throat. Nothing, just more darkness. But is it empty darkness or occupied darkness? This is your life now, a constant, draining battle against your own imagination, which has suddenly become far too creative. You remember Giles's words, "You are a scarecrow." But scarecrows don't have to worry about assassins. They just stand there, blissfully unaware. You, on the other hand, are acutely aware. You are a thinking, feeling, terrified scarecrow, and you're beginning to suspect the crows in this field are armed with more than just sharp beaks. The rest of the hour passes in a blur of heightened fear. Every scrape of loose stone, every gust of wind, every distant shout sends a fresh jolt of panic through you. You are no longer just cold and miserable. You are prey. The tangle has transformed from a mere labyrinth of filth into a three-dimensional chessboard, and you are the most exposed, expendable piece on the board. And the worst part? You still have hours to go. Hours of this cold, gnawing fear with the cynical, dead-eyed face of Giles burned into your memory, a harbinger of your own likely, and probably messy, fate. Just as the silence becomes a ringing in your ears, a deep, resonant sound tolls from the distant priory. It's the bell for matins, the pre-dawn prayer. 1, 2, 3 strokes. 3 in the morning. The sound rolls over the slumbering city. A holy and ponderous announcement that means absolutely nothing to you. For the monks, it is a call to God. For you, it is a cruel joke, a cosmic. Are you still watching? Prompt from a universe that finds your personal horror movie deeply entertaining. The sound doesn't bring comfort or a sense of order. It just confirms that time is, in fact, still moving, albeit at a glacial pace designed specifically to prolong your suffering. You still have hours of this slow-motion panic attack with a dress code to endure before the sun even considers showing up. You've moved past fear and into a state of functional, ambulatory dread. The knowledge Giles gifted you has poisoned the very air you breathe. The tangle is no longer just a collection of hovels. It's a hunting blind. Lord Valerius is the stag. The assassins are the hunters, and you are the twitchy, noisy squirrel that's about to get an arrow through it for making a sound at the wrong moment. Your route forces you along the edge of the tangle, where it brushes up against the slightly more respectable part of town. Here, one of the houses is not completely dark. Through a tiny gap in a heavy wooden shutter, a sliver of warm, golden candlelight escapes. You can't help but pause, drawn to it like a moth. You press yourself against the cold wall beside the window, daring to peek. Inside is a world away. It's a study lined with books. A man in a fine robe sits at a heavy oak desk, a quill scratching softly across parchment. A fire crackles merrily in a stone hearth, casting dancing shadows on the walls. He has a mug of what you can only assume is mulled wine, steaming at his elbow. He is safe. He is warm. He is literate. He exists in a sphere of reality so far removed from yours that he might as well be on the moon. The gulf between his life and yours is an unbridgeable chasm. He probably worries about the price of vellum or a poorly translated line from a Greek philosopher. You worry about the structural integrity of your own skull. For a fleeting second, you feel a hot surge of resentment. You are out here, freezing, in the filth, guarding his precious, comfortable world from the darkness, and he has no idea you even exist. You are a function, a utility, as invisible and unthanked as the gutters that carry the filth away from his doorstep. You pull away from the window, the brief vision of warmth making the night feel 10 degrees colder. Your lantern doesn't illuminate. It just makes the darkness more personal. You turn a corner back into a narrower street, and your foot kicks something. It's not a rock. It makes a sharp, metallic clink against the cobblestones. You lower your lantern, your hand trembling slightly. There, lying in the grime, is a crossbow bolt. And it's not the crude, rough-hewn type the city guard uses for practice. This one is sleek, black-fletched, with a vicious-looking bodkin point designed to punch through leather and mail. It's a professional's tool. You look around wildly, scanning the rooftops. Nothing. You look at the wall next to you. And there it is, a fresh, deep splinter in a wooden beam at roughly chest height. The bolt wasn't just dropped. It was fired. And it missed. You stare at the bolt, then at the hole. This is the tangible evidence. The abstract fear now has a physical form. It's like hearing rumors of a plague and then finding the rat dead on your doorstep. The assassins are not a myth Giles spun to scare the new guy. They are here. They are active. And their aim isn't perfect. That last thought is somehow the most terrifying of all. A perfect assassin would have hit their target, Lord Valerius, and be gone. An imperfect assassin might still be here, frustrated, angry, and willing to shoot at any potential witness who stumbles upon their failure. You don't touch the bolt. You leave it where it lies, a small offering to whatever dark gods rule these alleys. You back away slowly, as if from a venomous snake, and continue your patrol, your body screaming with a fresh wave of adrenaline. Your brain is now a malfunctioning threat detector. Your paranoia, which was already working overtime, has been promoted to CEO of your entire nervous system. Every shadow is now a crouching figure with a crossbow, the wind whistling through. A cracked pane of glass is the sound of a bolt being loosed. You find yourself walking in a crouch, trying to use the meager cover of discarded barrels and shadowy doorways, which only makes you look like a skulking thief yourself. If another watchman saw you now, they'd assume you are up to no good. You're not just tired. You're soul level exhausted, but your body is wired with a frantic, terrified energy. It's a horrible combination. It's like being forced to run a marathon after being awake for 48 hours straight. You start seeing things. The gnarled wood of an old door looks like a screaming face. A pile of discarded rags in a corner takes on the shape of a huddled body. You are losing your grip on reality, the line between what is real and what your fears projecting onto the world becoming hopelessly blurred. You are a ghost haunting your own life, a spectator to your own unraveling. And the worst part is, you can't stop. You can't just go and hide in a cellar until morning. Your absence would be noted. And in a city this paranoid, an absent watchman is almost as bad as a dead one. It means something happened. It would draw attention. The one thing you desperately want to avoid. So you walk. You walk through the suffocating darkness, through the filth and the cold. You walk with the ghost of Thomas, the ambitious one, and the cynical rasp of Giles, the survivor. You walk with the knowledge of a missed crossbow bolt and the certainty that somewhere, nearby, someone is hunting a nobleman, and they don't care about collateral damage. You are the collateral damage. You are the acceptable loss. And the sun is still hours away. Your fight or flight response, which has been getting a strenuous workout all night, has officially clocked out and gone home. All that's left on duty is the freeze and pray department, and it's working at maximum capacity. You are walking through what feels like the final level of a particularly cruel video game. Your objective is no longer to patrol the city. It's survive the next 10 seconds. You repeat this objective over and over. As you force your numb feet to move, you round a corner lined with the sagging remnants of a weaver's workshop. And then you hear it. This is the moment your job graduates from terrible to potentially last. It's not the ambiguous sound of wind or the comical crash of a pig. It's the unmistakable, guttural gasp of a human being in sudden, sharp distress. It's followed by a muffled thud, as if a body hit a wall, and then the frantic scrabbling of boots on stone. Someone is running. Someone is running for their life. Giles's cynical voice echoes in your head, clear as the priory bell. You hear a scream, you die. This wasn't a scream, but it was close enough. It was its ugly, breathless cousin. Your body makes the decision for you. There is no heroic impulse. There is no surge of civic duty. There is only the primal, overwhelming need to not be where this is happening. You dive to your right into a narrow, stinking gap between the tannery and a crumbling tenement. The space is filled with discarded hides and refuse, and the stench is a physical blow, a gag-inducing wall of rot and chemicals. You squeeze yourself behind a pile of moldy leather scraps, trying to make yourself as small as possible. You are trying to achieve a state of sentient furniture, unseen, unnoticed, and definitely not involved. You hold your breath, listening. The running footsteps grow louder, closer. A figure bursts into the alley you just vacated. He is dressed in fine, though now torn and mud-stained, fabrics. He runs with a desperate, panicked gait, looking over his shoulder. You can't see his face clearly, but you see the terror in his posture. This must be him, Lord Valerius. He scrambles past your hiding spot, his breath coming in ragged, painful sobs. For a heart-stopping second, he glances towards your hiding place, and you see the whites of his eyes, wide with fear. But his gaze passes over you, seeing only trash and shadows. He doesn't see the terrified watchman hiding in the filth. Then the hunters appear, 2 of them. They move with a silent, fluid grace that is utterly terrifying. They are shadows giving human form. They don't run. They flow over the cobblestones, their feet barely making a sound. One has a long, thin blade in his hand. It's steel drinking. The weak light of your discarded lantern, which lies on its side 10 feet away. The other has a weighted kosh. They don't speak. They don't need to. They are a single, coordinated instrument of violence. They pass your hiding spot without a glance, their focus entirely on their fleeing quarry. In seconds, they are gone, disappearing into the oppressive darkness at the other end of the alley, their silent pursuit more frightening than any battle cry. You stay frozen in your hiding place, listening to the frantic pounding of your own heart. It's the only sound in the world. The silence they left behind was louder than the chase itself. It's a heavy, listening silence, full of unspoken threat. You have now seen them. You're not just a man who found a crossbow bolt. You are a direct witness. Your mind replays the image of the men, their silent efficiency, the glint of steel. These are not common thugs. Giles was right. These are professionals. The kind of men who would eliminate a loose end without a second thought. And you are a very, very loose end. You remain hidden in the stinking crevice for what feels like an eternity. Is it safe to come out? What if one of them circles back? What if Valerius manages to lose them and doubles back this way? Your little alley of refuse has become both a sanctuary and a trap. Every muscle in your body is screaming from the cramped, tense position. The stench is making you dizzy. You finally, cautiously peek out. The alley is empty. Your lantern is still there, casting a weak, sideways glow. Nothing moves. Slowly, shakily, you climb out of your hiding spot. You feel disgusting, covered in some unspeakable slime, and the smell of the tannery now clings to you like a second skin. You snatch up your lantern and your halberd, your hands fumbling. You need to get away from this spot. Now, you don't continue. Your prescribed route. To hell with the route. The route is what got you here. You backtrack, moving with a new kind of urgency, a desperate, crab-like scuttle trying to stay in the deepest shadows. Your one and only goal is to get to the end of your shift, to melt away into the dawn, to become forgettable. You are no longer concerned with upholding the peace. You are concerned with upholding the basic biological functions of your own body. As you stumble through the maze, you reflect on the absurdity of it all. A high-stakes drama of nobility and betrayal is playing out its final act in this squalid labyrinth. And you, a nobody, got a front-row seat you never asked for. This is a story for ballads and history books, but when you're in it, there's no glory, no romance. There is only the cold, hard reality of your own mortality and the overwhelming smell of filth. You are an unwilling footnote in someone else's grand, tragic story. And footnotes have a tendency to get erased. The priory bell tolls again. 4 o'clock. The night is finally starting to bleed away, but the dawn feels a lifetime away. And you know, with a cold certainty that settles in your gut, that this night is not over yet. The hunters and the hunted are still out there, playing their deadly game in the maze. And you're trapped in the maze with them. Your only coherent thought is to find a hole and pull it in after you. The grand tour of the tangle is officially over. You are now just a scared animal looking for a place to wait out the storm. You abandon any pretense of a patrol route and start taking random turns, diving down any alley that looks darker and more forgotten than the last. Your logic is simple. Where a man can barely walk, an assassin might not bother to look. This leads you into the true guts of the city's poverty. A section of interwoven passages so narrow, you have to turn sideways, your halberd scraping against the slimy brick walls. It is here, in a dead-end courtyard, cluttered with broken pottery and forgotten refuse, that your night gets demonstrably worse. Huddled behind a collapsed rain barrel is a man. He's breathing in harsh, ragged gasps, clutching a wound on his arm from which a dark fluid is slowly seeping. It's him, Lord Valerius. He hears your clumsy approach and looks up, his eyes wild with a mixture of terror and impossibly relief. He looked at you with the desperate hope of a man who fundamentally misunderstands his situation. He doesn't see a trembling, useless wretch who just spent 10 minutes hiding in garbage. He sees the iron cap, the city's insignia on your jerkin, the polar. He sees authority. He sees a rescuer. Guard. He whispers, his voice hoarse. Thank the saints. You must help me. He stumbles towards you, one hand outstretched in a plea. They're trying to murder me. The Duke's men. Get me to the city gate. There's a carriage waiting. I'll make you rich. A lordship, lands, anything you want. The words tumble out of him in a desperate torrent. He is offering you a fairy tale, a new life, a fortune. It's the kind of offer you dream about on cold nights. And it's an offer that will get you killed before you can spend the first copper coin. You are not at a crossroads of morality. You're at a T-intersection where both roads lead off a cliff. Help him, and his professional killers become your professional killers. Refuse and... What? You watch him die? You try to run? Your mind is a vortex of Giles's warnings and a nobleman's frantic promises. You stammer, trying to form a coherent sentence, an excuse, anything. My lord, this is not ... You take a step back, shaking your head. Your life's warranty has just expired in the most dramatic way possible. Valerius' face falls, the hope in his eyes curdling into disbelief, then contempt. "You coward," he spits, just as two figures appear at the entrance to the alley, blocking the only way out. They stand silhouetted against the slightly less black sky, the alley suddenly feeling as small and inescapable as a coffin. It's the hunters. They've found him, and they've found you with him. They step into the alley, moving with that same unhurried, terrifying confidence. They see their target, bleeding and cornered. Then they see you, the Watchman, trapped right beside him. Their eyes flicker towards you. There's no malice in their expression, no anger. It's something far worse, annoyance. They look at you the way a carpenter looks at a nail that bends sideways. You are an inconvenient complication, a software update that started at the worst possible time. The one with the long knife takes a step forward, his gaze fixed on Valerius. The other hangs back, his attention now fully on you. He slowly, deliberately, pulls a heavy leather glove tighter on his hand. He is your designated problem solver. You are officially in the way. Lord Valerius, seeing his last hope was a fraud, lets out a choked sob of despair and scrambles back towards the far wall, trying to press himself into the unyielding brick. This is the moment of truth. You are armed. You are technically a representative of the city's law. You could shout, you could fight, you could try to make a stand. But these thoughts are distant, academic concepts. The reality is the cold, hard certainty of your own imminent death. The assassin assigned to you takes a slow, deliberate step in your direction. He hasn't drawn a weapon yet. He doesn't think he needs one. And looking at you, a trembling mess of fear holding a pointy stick. You barely know how to use. He's probably right. You hold up your lantern, a pathetic, trembling ward against the darkness. The light catches the assassin's eyes. They are empty, flat, and utterly devoid of emotion. They are the eyes of a man who is simply finishing a day's work. And you are the final tedious piece of paperwork. The alley is silent except for Valerius's panicked breathing and the frantic drumming of your own heart. You are cornered, outmatched, and standing next to the man these killers were sent to dispatch. There is no escape. There is no negotiation. There is only the end of your shift, in the most permanent sense of the word. The assassin takes another step closer, and you realize this is it. This is how the story of your short, miserable career as a night watchman concludes. Not with a bang, but with a quiet, efficient, and utterly ignominious snuffing out in a dead-end alley that smells of mildew and despair. This is the end. You are a footnote about to be erased. The assassin takes another step, close enough now that you can smell the damp wool of his cloak. Your entire existence has shrunk to this tiny, filthy courtyard. You close your eyes, a final act of surrender. You brace for the blow, the sharp pain, the sudden void. But it doesn't come. Instead, you hear a soft, dry chuckle. It's a sound more chilling than any threat. You force your eyes open. The lead assassin, the one who is focused on Lord Valerius, has turned his head slightly. He looks you over, from your pinched face and wide eyes to your trembling hands and filth-stained tunic. He sees everything, and then he says a single word to his partner, the one standing before you. Leave it. The assassin in front of you doesn't question the order. He gives you one last look of utter contempt, a look that says you are so far beneath his notice you don't even qualify as a witness. You are human refuse, as insignificant as the broken pottery at your feet. Being deemed too pathetic to kill is perhaps the most profound insult you have ever received, and it is the only thing that saves your life. They turn their full attention back to Lord Valerius. The nobleman, who had a flicker of hope when he saw the assassin's paws, now lets out a thin, wretched whimper as he realizes your worthlessness is his death warrant. You are frozen in place, a spectator at an execution. You want to run, to turn away, but your legs are locked, your eyes transfixed by the horror. You don't see a fight. There is no noble last stand. There is only a swift, brutal, and silent efficiency. The second assassin moves, and Valerius is on the ground. A hand is clapped over his mouth, stifling his scream. The lead assassin kneels. The long, thin blade glints once in the lantern light. A quick, precise movement. There is a soft, wet sound. And then, stillness. It's over in less than 10 seconds. They stand up, perfectly calm. They wipe their hands and blade on the dead man's fine tunic, a final act of desecration. They don't give you a second glance. They simply turn and walk out of the alley, their footsteps making no sound, and are swallowed once more by the all-consuming darkness of the tangle. You are left alone in the sudden, deafening silence. The only company you have is the corpse of a nobleman and the ghost of your own courage. Your lantern casts a flickering, unsteady light on the scene. Lord Valerius lies sprawled on the cobblestones, his eyes open and staring at the sky with a look of profound surprise. The fairy tale he offered you is dead at his feet. You stand there for a full minute, maybe 5. Time has lost all meaning. Your brain is a static-filled void. Then the shivering starts, a deep, uncontrollable tremor that racks your entire body. You drop the halberd with a clatter that sounds like a thunderclap in the silence. You back away from the body, stumbling over your own feet until your back hits the far wall. You slide down it, landing in a heap on the cold, damp ground. You sit there in the filth and wait. You wait for the sun. It arrives not with a glorious burst of light, but with a slow, reluctant leaking of gray into the eastern sky. The oppressive blackness softens into a charcoal gray, then a bruised purple. The edges of the rooftops become defined. The dawn is not a promise of a new day, but a confirmation that you survived the night. It brings no warmth, no comfort, no relief. It only illuminates the grim reality of what you have witnessed. As the city slowly begins to stir, you force yourself to your feet. You know what you have to do. You have to forget. You pick up your halberd. You look one last time at the body, a dark stain in the growing light. You turn your back on it and walk away. You don't run. You just walk, a numb, shuffling gait. You leave the tangle behind, emerging into the wider streets as the first signs of life appear. A baker, his face smudged with flour, nods at you. A carter leading a weary-looking ox grunts a greeting. They see a watchman at the end of his shift. They don't see the ghost you've become. You make it back to the small, grimy barracks that serves as the watch headquarters. The day sergeant is there, a fat man with sleepy eyes, who takes your halberd and lantern without a word. He doesn't ask if you had a quiet night. He doesn't care. Your survival is the only report he needs. You trudge to your shared room and collapse onto your straw pallet. The other off-duty men are snoring around you. They are oblivious. You lie on your back, staring at the low, timber-bird ceiling. You can still smell the tannery on your clothes, the metallic scent of blood in your memory. You close your eyes, but you see the assassin's face, the glint of the blade, the dead eyes of Lord Valerius. Sleep is a distant country you will not be visiting anytime soon. You survived. You will get your few coins. You did your job, as Giles defined it. You were a scarecrow. But scarecrows don't have nightmares. Congratulations. You've survived your first taste of the real night watch. The trauma is complimentary, and your next shift starts at sunset. Forget the romantic notion of the starving artist, suffering beautifully in a quaint, sun-drenched garret. That's a fantasy. The reality is you, a painter whose primary skill isn't capturing the soul on canvas, but figuring out how to stretch. A single coin for a week's worth of bread that tastes like sawdust. But today is different. Today, you've hit the jackpot, the kind of commission that could save you from another miserable winter. You've been summoned to the estate of the ridiculously wealthy and influential de Valois family. Your job is to paint a family portrait. Or, to put it in more accurate terms, you've been hired to paint a masterpiece of propaganda. As you stand before the imposing stone facade of their manor, a place so grand it makes the local church look like a garden shed, you can't help but feel a familiar mix of awe and resentment. The journey here was a lesson in social strata. You on a rickety cart that threatened to disintegrate with every pothole. And now this monument to generational wealth, a place where the horses probably eat better than you do. You are led inside by a steward whose face is frozen in a permanent expression of disapproval. He looks at your worn clothes and the splatters of paint on your hands as if you are a particularly interesting piece of filth that has wandered in from the street. The air in the mansion is colder than it was outside, thick with the smell of beeswax, old stone, and something else. A sterile, suffocating silence. This isn't a home. It's a museum to its own importance. You are brought to the Grand Hall to meet your patrons. Lord Alaric de Valois is exactly what you'd expect. Tall, severe, with a neatly trimmed gray beard and eyes that assess you like you're a piece of livestock he's considering buying. His wife, Lady Alara, is eerily beautiful, a porcelain doll of a woman whose smile never quite reaches her cold, distant eyes. They didn't want a portrait. They wanted an alibi painted in oil. They explained the commission. They want a portrait that speaks of unity, piety, and strength. They want to be depicted as the perfect noble family, a beacon of stability in a troubled world. As they speak, their two children are brought in to be introduced. The heir, 20-year-old Tristan, is a younger, crueler version of his father, with a smirk that never leaves his face. He looks at you with open contempt. Then there is the daughter, 17-year-old Isolde. She is pale and delicate, and she moves with the nervous energy of a startled fawn. She doesn't meet anyone's gaze, her eyes fixed on the floor, as if searching for an escape route. The tension in the room is immediate and palpable. It's like being the only sober person at a family dinner, where everyone is furious with each other, but is determined to pretend otherwise. You, being an artist, are a professional observer. It's your job to see the things people try to hide. And what you see isn't unity. You see Lord Alaric and Lady Alara standing a carefully calculated foot apart, never touching. You see the way Tristan's smirk widens when his sister Isolde flinches as he steps closer to her. You see how Lady Ilara's hands are clenched into tight fists at her side, the only sign of emotion on her otherwise placid face. The family's smiles are so fake, they could have been imported at great cost. This is the hidden sin the job posting didn't mention. You are here to paint over a crack, a deep, festering fracture in the heart of this family. Your job is to be an artist, a psychologist, and a professional secret keeper, all for the price of one. They show you to the cavernous, drafty room where you will work. They have already set up a large, intimidatingly blank canvas. Your paints and supplies, which cost you a small fortune, look pitifully meager in the grand space. You are left alone to set up, the steward informing you that the first sitting will be tomorrow morning. As you arrange your brushes and mix your base colors, you can't shake the feeling of unease. You look at the blank canvas and then think, of the 4 people you are meant to paint on it, how do you paint unity on faces that barely look at each other? How do you paint piety when the air is thick with unspoken resentment? How do you create a masterpiece of lies? You realize this commission is more than just a technical challenge. It's a dangerous game. You are the outsider, the help, brought in to witness this family's most intimate dysfunctions, and then create a beautiful fiction to hide it all. You are the keeper of the truth, and the pay is good. But you have a sinking feeling that in a house built on secrets, knowing the truth is the most dangerous position of all. The next morning, the great hall is bathed in a cold gray light that filters through the tall, arched windows. It's the kind of flat, unforgiving light that artists both crave and dread. It reveals everything. It's a perfect metaphor for your current situation. You've prepared your workspace, arranging your charcoal sticks, your finest brushes, and your freshly mixed paints like a surgeon laying out their instruments before a complex and dangerous operation. You feel a knot in your stomach that has nothing to do with hunger and everything to do with anticipation. You are about to step onto a battlefield, disguised as a sitting room. The De Vallo family does not enter together. That would imply level of cohesion they simply don't possess. First comes Lord Alaric, his footsteps echoing on the marble floor. He is already impatient, checking a jewel-encrusted pocket watch you could probably trade for a comfortable house. Next is Lady Ilara, gliding into the room as if on wheels. Her expression is serene and unreadable as a marble statue. Then Comes. Tristan, swaggering, a look of profound boredom on his face, as if being forced to sit for a portrait is the greatest injustice ever inflicted upon him. Finally, like a ghost, Isolde slips into the room. She is dressed in a gown of pale blue that only serves to emphasize her bloodless complexion. She looks smaller and more fragile than you remembered. The silence in the room has weight, texture, and a very sharp edge. Your first task is to arrange them. This is not art. It is diplomacy, engineering, and a fool's errand all in one. You try to pose them according to Lord Alaric's instructions, a tableau of unified strength. You ask him to sit in a large, throne-like chair, the patriarch at the center. You then try to position Lady Ilara standing just behind him, one hand resting gently on his shoulder. The moment her fingers make contact, you see him flinch, a microscopic, almost imperceptible tightening of his entire body. She feels it too, and her hand hovers for a second, before settling on the carved wood of the chair instead, her long, pale fingers gripping it like she's trying to stop herself from falling. Their unity is a fragile fiction held together by wealth and denial. Now for the children. You place Tristan standing to his father's right, a hand resting on the pommel of a decorative sword. He strikes the pose with theatrical ease, his smirk suggesting he finds the whole affair ridiculous. The real challenge is Isolde. You ask her to stand on the other side, near her mother, perhaps holding a book or a single flower. She approaches, the spot like someone walking towards a cliff edge. You try to guide her, a gentle hand on her elbow, and she recoils as if you had burned her. You retreat instantly, mumbling an apology. You realize your job isn't to capture their likeness, but to expertly conceal their truth. After an agonizing few minutes of minute adjustments, you have them arranged. It's a passable imitation of a family. Each of them is an island of misery, forced by contract to appear as a continent. You retreat to your easel and pick up a stick of charcoal. Excellent, you lie, your voice sounding too loud in the oppressive silence. Please, hold that pose. We shall begin. You start to sketch, your eyes flitting from face to face, your hand moving quickly across the canvas. You are not just painting a family, you are documenting a slow-motion collapse. You try to focus on the technical details, the severe line of Alaric's jaw, the elegant curve of Alara's neck, the arrogant tilt of Tristan's head. But your artist's eye sees more. It sees the subtle tremor in Isolde's hands, the network of fine lines around her mother's eyes that speak of sleepless nights, the way Alaric's gaze is fixed on a point on the far wall, as if he is mentally 1,000 miles away. For nearly an hour, the only sounds are the scrape of your charcoal on canvas and the ticking of Lord Alaric's pocket watch, a constant, maddening reminder that his time is being wasted. Then, the fragile piece is shattered. It happens quietly. Tristan, likely bored, shifts his weight. In doing so, his arm brushes against Isolde's. Her reaction is instantaneous and violent. She lets out a small, choked gasp and springs away from him, stumbling backward as if she has been struck by a viper. Her movement sends a small decorative table wobbling, and a porcelain vase teeters for a moment before crashing to the floor, shattering into 1,000 pieces. The sound is like a gunshot. The silence that follows is even louder. Everyone freezes. Tristan looks down at his sister with an expression of pure venomous anger, not for touching her, but for her reaction. Lord Alaric rises halfway from his chair, his face a mask of thunderous fury. Isolde, he barks, his voice cracking like a whip. Control yourself. Look what you've done. Lady Alara doesn't look at her daughter. She looks at the shattered vase, a flicker of genuine pain crossing her face for the first time. That was a gift from the Queen, she says, her voice a monotone of despair. No one asks if Isolde is all right. No one moves to comfort her. She stands amidst the porcelain, shards trembling, tears streaming down her face, looking at her family as if they were her executioners. And you, the artist, you are forced to witness it all. You quickly lower your gaze to your canvas, pretending to be deeply engrossed in a particularly difficult shadow on a velvet curtain. You are invisible. You are furniture. You saw nothing. A servant is summoned with a sharp clap of Lord Alaric's hands. The mess is swept away. Isolde is sternly ordered back to her position. The sitting continues. But something has changed. A crack you were hired to paint over has been split wide open, and you saw the darkness teeming within. They resume their poses, but the fiction is ruined. The air is now thick with the poison that was briefly released. You continue to sketch, but your hand feels heavy, and the faces you are drawing now seem like monstrous caricatures of the beautiful lie you are supposed to create. You now know, with absolute certainty, that there is a secret here. A secret revolving around the terrified girl and her cruel brother. And you are beginning to fear that your canvas is not big enough to hide it. When the agonizing sitting is finally over, Lord Alaric dismisses you with a curt nod, and the family dissolves like smoke. They don't speak to one another. They simply vanish into the silent, cavernous depths of the manor, leaving you alone, with your easel and the screaming silence. The image of the shattered porcelain and Isolde's terrified face is burned into your mind. You are no longer just a painter trying to earn a living. You are an archaeologist, and this family is a freshly buried ruin. The commission has changed. Your original goal was to paint a lie for a bag of gold. Now, a new, dangerous objective has taken root in your mind: to understand the truth you are being paid so handsomely to conceal. Curiosity is a luxury you probably can't afford, but you're spending it anyway. You pack away your charcoal, but leave the easel standing as a monument to your impossible task. You need to walk. You need to understand the geography of this beautiful prison. Under the guise of observing the manor's light, a plausible artistic quirk, you begin to wander. You drift through grand corridors where your footsteps, soft as they are, sound like an intrusion. The walls are covered with the portraits of Devalu ancestors, a gallery of stern, unsmiling men and women who seem to watch your every move with aristocratic disdain. Every portrait on the wall is a beautiful lie, and you are just the latest. Liar for hire, the opulence is suffocating. There are rooms filled with priceless furniture that no one sits on, harpsichords gathering dust under silk sheets, and vast libraries of books whose spines have never been cracked. The house isn't lived in, it's curated. It's a stage, and the family are merely actors who have long forgotten their lines. The house is built on secrets, and the silence is its mortar. As you pass through a service corridor, you see a young maid scurrying along, her head down. She's carrying a basket of laundry and trying to be as invisible as possible. This is your chance. You position yourself in her path, pretending to be admiring a tapestry, forcing her to stop. "Pardon me," you say, with a voice much friendlier than you feel. She flinches, startled, her eyes wide with the familiar fear of anyone in the lower rungs of this household. "My apologies, Master Painter," she stammers, trying to press herself into the wall to let you pass. You offer a disarming smile. No, it is my fault. I was just thinking, that was a terrible shame about the vase earlier. Lady Isolde must have been so upset." You watch her face carefully. For a split second, her professional mask slips. You see a flash of genuine pity, immediately followed by a wave of pure terror. She glances nervously down the empty corridor, as if the walls themselves are listening. "The young mistress is delicate," she whispers, her voice barely audible. "It is not my place to speak of it." She makes to move past you, but you press. "Just a little, of course. It's just that as her painter, I wish to capture her true spirit." She seems so reserved. The maid stops. She looks at you, a desperate warning glint in her eyes. She leans in closer, her voice a thread of sound. Some things in this house are best left unseen. Some spirits are best left undisturbed. For your own good, Master Painter. Just paint the pretty picture they ask for. It's safer. And with that, she scurries away, leaving her words hanging in the air like poison. The warning is clear. The fear isn't just within the family. It infects everyone. Later, your study of light takes you to the upper floor, down the wing where the family's private chambers are located. You move silently, a ghost in their midst. As you pass a heavy oak door, you hear a faint sound, a soft, sad melody being hummed. It's Isolde's room. You pause, listening. The tune is melancholic but beautiful. It's a sound of life in a house that feels like a tomb. It's a glimpse behind the mask of pure terror she wears in her family's presence. In her own space, she is not just a victim. She is a person, one with a small, secret world of her own. The thought makes the situation even more tragic. You return to the grand hall and your canvas. The gray afternoon light is beginning to fade. You stare at the charcoal sketch, the rough outline of the 4 figures. The lie feels clumsy, obvious. You cannot paint it as they want. Not anymore. A new plan forms in your mind, a subtle rebellion. You will paint them exactly as they requested. It will be a masterpiece of unity, piety, and strength. But you will hide the truth in plain sight. You will paint it in a language only you and the ghosts will understand. You pick up your brush and mix the first flesh tones for Isolde's face. You will capture her beauty, her delicacy. But in her eyes, you will place a tiny, almost invisible reflection. In that reflection, you will paint a shape, a distorted shadow, the suggestion of a hand reaching out. To any casual observer, it will be a trick of the light, a masterful touch of realism. But you will know. It will be the beginning of your silent confession. Your portrait will not be an alibi. It will be an accusation. The second sitting is somehow worse than the first. The novelty has worn off, replaced by a grim sense of obligation. The de Valo family reassembles with the enthusiasm of prisoners being led back to their cells after a brief respite. The memory of the shattered vase has created a new layer of tension, a brittle surface over the chasm of their dysfunction. They take their places, and you can feel their impatience like a physical force. They want this to be over. They want the fiction to be complete so they can retreat back into their private miseries. You, however, are just getting started. The portrait is no longer a blank canvas. It has a life of its own now. The foundational layers of paint have been applied, and the ghostly images of the family are beginning to emerge from the umber underpainting. They look like specters at their own feast, which feels remarkably accurate. As you paint, you feel their eyes on you. Not just the passive boredom of a subject, but the active scrutiny of a co-conspirator. They are watching you, watching your brushstrokes, ensuring you are adhering to the unspoken contract, to lie and to lie beautifully. You weren't just painting. You were performing a tightrope walk over a pit of vipers. Halfway through the session, Lady Alara does something unexpected. She rises from her position, her movements as fluid and silent as ever, and approaches your easel. Her husband shoots her an irritated look, but says nothing. She stands beside you, her perfume a scent of lily and cold cream, invading your space. She examines the canvas, her head tilted. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, scan the work. You feel your heart begin to hammer in your chest. Have you been too bold? Is the shadow on Isolde's face too dark? Is the tension in Alaric's hand too obvious? Your work is. Precise, Master Painter, she says, her voice a low murmur. It's a compliment delivered with the warmth of a winter frost. You capture a certain ... formality. It is good. It's a test. She is telling you what she wants to see, reminding you of the boundaries. You simply nod, offering a quiet "Thank you, my lady," while your mind races. The portrait was becoming less of a painting and more of a confession, and she was the priest demanding you stick to the approved version of the scripture. A short time later, a steward enters and speaks in a low tone to Lord Alaric. Business, urgent business. The Lord and his sneering heir Tristan are forced to depart, leaving you with Lady Alara and Isolde. This is a gift from the heavens. Lady? Alara, declaring the light has faded, dismisses herself almost immediately, eager to escape. For a few precious moments, you are alone in the great hall with Isolde. She remains where she was posed, a fragile statue, as if she has forgotten how to move without being commanded. Now is your only chance. You set down your brush and approach her, not as a painter to a subject, but as one human being to another. Her silence is a fortress, and you are looking for a key. My lady, you begin softly, your voice gentle. Forgive my forwardness, but as your artist, I must understand my subject. She flinches, but doesn't bolt. She's listening. When I paint you, you continue, choosing your words with infinite care. I see great beauty, but also a profound ... melancholy. I find it difficult to capture your smile. It seems to be hiding. You hold your breath. This is the moment. You have offered her a thread. Will she take it? She looks up at you, and for the first time, you see her eyes clearly. They are a deep, sorrowful gray, and in them, you see not just fear, but a flicker of intelligence, of a spirit not yet completely crushed. A sad, fleeting smile touches her lips, a ghost of an expression. Perhaps, Master Painter, she whispers, her voice a fragile melody. It is because smiles have not been in fashion in this house for a very long time. In this house, kindness is a foreign language, and you have just spoken it. It's a small confession, but it's more truth than you have heard since you arrived. It's a confirmation of her unhappiness, a shared secret between the two of you. You feel a dangerous surge of empathy, a desire to protect this fragile girl. Before you can reply, a shadow falls over you both. Tristan has returned. He moves. With a predatory silence you are beginning to recognize. He did not leave with his father. He was watching. He stands there, his face a mask of cold fury. He looks at you, then at his sister, and you see his eyes narrow. He saw the exchange. He saw his sister speak to you with a sliver of trust. He looks at you as if you were a bug he was contemplating crushing. Without a word, he steps to Isolde's side and places a heavy, proprietary hand on her shoulder. She freezes instantly, all the life draining from her face, the mask of terror slamming back into place. The sitting is over, Tristan says, his voice low and menacing, his eyes locked on yours. It's not a statement, it's a threat. He turns his sister and leads her from the room, His grip on her shoulder is firm and inescapable as a manacle. You are left standing alone, your heart like a stone in your chest. The danger is no longer a vague, atmospheric dread. It has a name and a face. It's Tristan. And he now sees you not as the help, not as an insignificant painter, but as an enemy. You have trespassed, and he has marked you for it. Sleep offers no escape. That night, in the small, cold chamber allotted to you, you are besieged by the ghosts of the day. Every creak of the ancient manor's floorboards is the sound of Tristan's footsteps approaching your door. Every sigh of the wind through the eaves is his voice, whispering threats. You lie on the lumpy mattress, staring into the oppressive darkness, and realize the true nature of your position. You are no longer an artist. You are a hostage with a paintbrush. Fear is the currency of this house. And after your brief, ruinous conversation with Isolde, you are suddenly deeply in debt. You arrive at your workspace in the grand hall the next morning to find the sun streaming in, illuminating a scene of quiet violation. At first, nothing seems amiss. Your easel stands where you left it. Your paints are in order. But then you see it. Lying on the polished floor, directly in front of your easel, is a dead finch. Its neck is twisted at an unnatural angle. Its small, feathered body a stark punctuation of death against the marble. There is no doubt in your mind who left it. It's a message, delivered with the casual cruelty you saw in Tristan's eyes. His warning is not written in ink, but in violation and dead things. It says, I can reach anything you care about. I can break any fragile thing. You are just as fragile. You quickly dispose of the poor creature, your hands trembling, and try to begin your work. But the act of painting, once your only refuge, is now tainted with fear. The portrait has become a battlefield, and your brushes are the only weapons. You find yourself looking over your shoulder constantly, starting at every sound. The creative process is suffocated by paranoia. Is your secret message in Isolde's eyes too obvious? Does the shadow you've painted creeping from Tristan onto the rest of the family tell the story too clearly? What was once a subtle act of rebellion now feels like a signed confession left in plain sight. The family arrives for the third sitting, and the atmosphere is thick with a new, dangerous energy. Tristan watches you with an unblinking reptilian stillness. He is no longer just bored and arrogant. He is a predator, watching to see if his warning has been heeded. And Isolde, she is a ghost. She avoids your gaze completely, her eyes locked on a meaningless point in the distance. The fragile bridge of trust you built yesterday has been demolished, and she has retreated so far into herself, she is barely there at all. Seeing her like this, hollowed out and even more terrified than before, extinguishes the last embers of your artistic curiosity and replaces it with a cold, hard knot of anger. But the most unsettling development comes from Lady Alara. As the sitting progresses, she observes the dynamic between her children, the way Tristan's presence seems to physically diminish his sister, and the way your own hands seem to shake slightly as you work. When Lord Alaric is momentarily distracted by a correspondence, she moves to inspect your canvas again. This time, she ignores the painting. Her cold eyes are fixed on you. My son has a protective nature, she says. Her voice is smooth and cool as river stones, especially concerning his sister's delicate sensibilities. I do hope you have not been discomposing her. It is a masterfully crafted sentence. On the surface, It's the concern of a mother. But underneath, it's a sharp, pointed interrogation. Is she an ally of her son, delivering a more sophisticated version of his threat? Or is she something else entirely? You see a flicker of something in her eyes, not cruelty, but a deep, ancient weariness, a desperation. It's a calculated risk, but you take it. I assure you, my lady, you reply, your voice steady despite your racing heart. My only wish is to create a portrait that honors the truth of this family. You put the slightest emphasis on the word truth. Her expression doesn't change, but you see her clench the silver locket at her throat. Truth, she repeats softly, tasting the word as if it's a foreign delicacy. A noble ambition, Master Painter, but be warned. In this house, truth is a very, very expensive commodity. Be sure you can afford the price before you attempt to. Purchase it. She returns to her position, leaving you reeling. Her warning was as clear as Tristan's, but infinitely more complex. She is a queen in a gilded cage, and you cannot tell if she is holding the key or if she threw it away long ago. You are caught now, not just between a bully and his victim, but in a web of silent, competing interests. Tristan wants the secret buried. Isolde wants to be saved, and Lady Alara. Her motives are as murky and deep as the shadows you are trying to paint. You look at the faces on your canvas, the tyrant father, the cruel son, the broken daughter, and the ice-cold mother, and you realize you are not painting a family portrait at all. You are painting a constellation of pain, a map of a private hell, and you are standing right in the middle of it. The days that follow are a masterclass in psychological warfare. Tristan's presence is a constant, suffocating pressure. He often lingers during the sittings, not posing, but simply watching you, his arms crossed, a faint, cruel smile on his lips. His gaze is a physical weight, making your hands feel clumsy, your artistic choices second-guessed. You feel less like an artist and more like a bond disposal expert, knowing that one wrong move, one brushstroke too true, could detonate the entire situation. You focus on the mundane, on the technical aspects of your craft, trying to lose yourself in the mixing of colors and the texture of the canvas. But the fear is a constant companion, a cold spot in the pit of your stomach. The portrait had become a confession, and you were terrified the wrong person might learn how to read it. The truth, when it finally comes, arrives not with a dramatic confrontation, but with a quiet summons. A servant, the same disapproving steward from your first day, informs you that Lady Alara wishes to see you in her private solar. Not in the grand hall, not with the family. Alone. This is it. The other shoe is about to drop. The solar is in the west wing of the manor, a room you've never been to. It's surprisingly intimate, filled with books, maps, and fine embroidery. A fire crackles in the hearth. It's the first genuinely warm room you've been in since you arrived. Lady Alara stands by the window, looking out at the manicured gardens. She does not turn when you enter. "Close the door, Master Painter," she says, her voice calm and steady. You do as you are told, the heavy oak door clicking shut, with a sound of finality. You are in the heart of the beast now. "The portrait," she begins, still not looking at you. "It progresses well. You are a man of considerable talent. You see things." She turns to face you, and for the first time, her face is not a cold, emotionless mask. It is the face of a woman who has been drowning for a very long time. "You see." The fear in my daughter's eyes. You see the cruelty in my son. Do not insult my intelligence by denying it. You remain silent. There is no point in denial. You think you are painting a dysfunctional family, she continues, taking a step closer. A brutish son, a timid daughter, a cold mother, and a blind father. You are not even close to the mark. The family wasn't just hiding a skeleton in their closet. They had built the entire mansion on top of a graveyard. She gestures to a small, ornate chest on her writing desk. She opens it and removes a single object, a child's wooden toy soldier, beautifully carved, but with one of its arms snapped off. This belonged to a boy named Leo, she says softly. He was a stable boy, a friend to Isolde when she was younger. He had a laugh that could fill the entire courtyard. Her voice trembles for a moment. 2 years ago, Tristan, in a fit of rage over a horse he claimed the boy had spooked, beat him. Beat him so severely that Leo never recovered. He died 3 days later. The truth, when it came, was not a whisper, but a landslide. It was murder. My husband, to protect the Davalois name, to protect his precious heir, covered it up. The boy's family was paid off and sent away. It was declared a tragic accident. But Isolde saw it. She saw what her brother did, and that is the leash she holds around her neck. He torments her with the memory, threatens her, ensures her silence with his cruelty. She lives in fear not just of him, but of the secret she carries. Now you understand. The fear, the flinching, the suffocating silence. It all snaps into horrifying focus. Lady Alara looks at you, her eyes pleading. I cannot act. Alaric would sooner disown me than tarnish his son's name. I am trapped, a prisoner in my own home, forced to watch this monster my husband has protected. She points a trembling finger at you. But you are an outsider. You have a weapon that I do not. The portrait, you breathe, the realization dawning on you. Yes, she says, her voice hardening with purpose. I cannot have you painting the truth for all to see. We would all be ruined, but I cannot let this continue. There is one person who despises my husband, who would see him ruined, and has the power to do it. The Baron von Hesse. He is a rival for a royal appointment and is coming to view the portrait in 2 weeks when it is unveiled. He is a shrewd man who looks for weakness. She is offering you a choice between being a coward and being a corpse. I want you to finish the portrait, as commissioned. A beautiful lie. But I want you to add one detail. In the background, on a table, I want you to paint this. She reaches back into the chest and pulls out a small, exquisite silver locket. Paint this locket and paint it open. Inside, I want the smallest, most detailed portrait of a single broken toy soldier. Your painting was no longer a mirror. It was a dagger, and she was telling you exactly where to aim it. It's a message no one else would understand. But the Baron, knowing the rumors of the Davalois family's ruthlessness, would see it. He would investigate. It would be the loose thread that could unravel everything. You had come for gold, and now you were negotiating with your own survival. To refuse meant earning the enmity of a desperate, powerful woman. To accept meant making a mortal enemy of the murderous Tristan and his powerful father. You look at her face, at the years of pain etched there, and you think of Isolde's haunted eyes. Your fear is still there, a cold, hard stone. But now it is joined by a hot, righteous anger. You give her the only answer you can. I will do it. Your agreement with Lady Alara transforms you. The fear that had paralyzed you is forged into a cold, sharp instrument. You are no longer a passive victim in their psychodrama. You are a secret agent, a saboteur armed with a palette and brush. The final sittings are the most harrowing of your life. You paint with two minds. One is the public artist, skillfully rendering the lustrous silk of Lady Alara's gown, capturing the arrogant glint in Tristan's eye, and dutifully crafting the lie of a strong, unified family. The other mind works in secret, in the quiet, hours after midnight when the house is asleep. By the flickering light of a single candle, you work on the damning detail. The silver locket takes shape on a shadowed table in the corner of the portrait. It is a masterpiece of miniature work, so small as to be almost invisible. Night after night, you toil over the impossible detail of the open locket and the tiny, broken toy soldier within. Each brushstroke is a prayer and a curse, a secret whispered onto the canvas. As the day of the unveiling draws near, Tristan's suspicion intensifies. He senses the shift in you from fear to a quiet, unnerving resolve. He corners you one evening as you cross the great hall. He doesn't touch you. He simply stands in your way, a physical embodiment of menace. The painting is nearly complete, he says, his voice a low growl. My father is expecting perfection. As am I will be looking very, very closely, painter. For everyone's sake, I hope there are no ... surprises. It is the final warning, a promise of retribution if you dare to defy him. On the day of the unveiling, the manor is transformed. The cold, silent halls are filled with the warmth and chatter of dozens of noble guests. Tapestries have been aired, silver has been polished, and the Davalou family plays the part of gracious hosts to perfection. You stand in the back of the room, a forgotten tradesman, your heart hammering against your ribs. You see the esteemed guest, Baron von Hesse, a man with a sharp, intelligent face and eyes that miss nothing. The portrait stands on a grand easel, shrouded in a heavy velvet cloth. Lord Alaric, beaming with pride, gives a pompous speech about legacy, honor, and the strength of his family line. It is a magnificent performance. You feel a cold sweat on your brow. This is the moment. With a flourish, Lord Alaric pulls the cord and the velvet cloth falls away. A collective gasp of admiration ripples through the crowd. It is, by all accounts, your masterpiece. The likenesses are perfect. The composition is flawless. The lie is breathtakingly beautiful. The family looks regal, powerful, and serene. Lord Alaric is triumphant. Tristan scans the canvas, a smug, satisfied smirk on his face. He sees nothing amiss. He thinks he has won. But you are not watching them. You are watching the Baron. Baron. Von Hesse approaches the portrait, his face a mask of polite appreciation. He congratulates Lord Alaric on his magnificent family and the artist's undeniable skill. For a horrifying moment, you think he has missed it. You think the detail was too small, the message too subtle. But then, the Baron's sharp eyes, trained to seek out flaws and leverage, drift to the corner of the painting. He pauses. He squints slightly, leaning in as if to admire a particularly intricate brushstroke on the table. His gaze fixes on the, silver locket. You can see the exact moment he understands. His eyes widen almost imperceptibly. He processes the image of the broken toy soldier. His gaze then darts to Lady Ilara, who stands pale and still beside her husband. She gives a single slow blink of confirmation. The Baron's eyes then move to Isolde's fragile form, and finally land on Tristan and is polite, appreciative. Smile transforms. It is now the smile of a wolf that has just found a fatal wound on a stag. The dagger has found its mark. The Baron says nothing. He simply turns back to Lord Alaric, his new smile in place. A truly remarkable legacy, my dear Alaric, the Baron says, his voice dripping with a new, hidden meaning. One must be careful to protect such things. They can be so fragile. Your part in this is over. While the nobles gather around the portrait, you slip out of the great hall. A steward, under orders from Lady Ilara, meets you with a bag of gold far heavier than you had agreed upon. It's not just payment. It's blood money, and a clear signal for you to disappear. You don't wait. You don't look back. You gather your meager belongings and leave the estate, the same rickety cart that brought you here, now feeling like a chariot of escape. As you ride away, you look back one last time at the grand manor. You know you have set a fire, a slow-burning fuse that will eventually consume the house of de Valois. You will read about it months or years from now, a quiet notice of a nobleman's fall from grace, a scandal that finally came to light. No one will ever know your role. You came to paint a portrait, but you left having painted a reckoning. You are no longer a starving artist. You are wealthy, but you are also haunted forever. A keeper of the silent portrait and the hidden sin behind the noble facade. And so, we leave the poisonous silence and psychological rot of the nobility, where the wounds are of pride and the weapons are secrets. But don't get too comfortable in that clean, tidy misery. For our final excursion into the agony of the past, we are heading down the social ladder. We're going to a place where problems aren't hidden behind tapestries, but are instead on full display in the form of rotten teeth, infected limbs, and a truly staggering amount of bodily fluids. If these tales of historical agony are your preferred method for relaxation and questioning all the good fortunes of modern life, why not take a brief moment? Like this video if you appreciate that your dentist uses anesthesia. Share it with a friend who thinks they're having a bad day. And if you haven't already, follow the channel to ensure a steady supply of historical doom is delivered directly to your feed. It helps immensely with unearthing these dreadful tales. Now, take a deep breath, but not too deep. You'll see why in a moment. It's time for your new career. Welcome to your life as a medieval barber surgeon. Your medical school was a dusty back room and the working knowledge of a man named Edgar, whose primary teaching method was to grumble, "No, no, you idiot," the other way, as you tried to pull your first tooth from a goat. There was no Hippocratic oath. It was only Edgar's golden rule. If they can pay, you can try. If they can't, throw them out. Now, Edgar has departed this mortal coil from a suspicious infection after nicking himself while shaving. Ironically, and the shop is yours. Welcome to the original one-stop shop for a haircut and a mild butchering. Your shop is less a clinic and more a barbershop with terrifying ambitions. On one side, you have the tools of the trade, scissors, sharp razors, combs. On the other side of the room, on a stained wooden table, sit the specialty tools. An array of cruel-looking pliers, a small bone saw that has seen better days, thick needles, And most importantly, the cauterizing iron heating in a brazier. Your medical degree is a confident attitude and a strong stomach. Your first client of all. The day is not here for a trim. It's a farmer named Thomas, a man with a weathered face and a jaw swollen to the size of a small apple. He points to his mouth, his eyes watery with pain. He doesn't need to say a word. The universal language of a rotten tooth is clear. You sit him in your one wooden chair, which groans in protest. The concept of anesthesia is a distant luxury, a story rich people tell. For Thomas, the anesthetic is a hearty swig of cheap, sour wine you offer him from a leather Bota bag. He drinks, chokes a bit, and the alcohol does little more than give him a momentary courage and a terrible breath. Open, you command, and he obeys. The smell that wafts out of his mouth is an offense to God and man. You see the culprit, a back molar, a black and shattered ruin in a sea of inflamed gums. Sterilization is likewise a concept from the future. You pick up your favorite extraction pliers, the ones with the best grip, and wipe them on your already stained leather apron. It's more of a ritual than a sanitary practice. You tell Thomas to grip the chair tightly, an entirely inadequate piece of advice for what's to come. You position the pliers, trying to get a good hold on the treacherous tooth. The cold metal scrapes against enamel, and Thomas lets out a muffled groan. You begin to pull. It's like trying to wrench a boulder from dry clay earth. You twist, you pull, putting your entire body weight into it. Thomas screams, a raw, primal sound that makes the chickens outside fall silent for a moment. His legs thrash. His knuckles are white where he grips the chair. Sweat pours down your forehead. This is not surgery. This is a wrestling match with human anatomy. With a sickening, audible crack, the root gives way. The tooth comes free, and with it comes a gush of blood and a cry of both relief and agony from Thomas. You hold the tooth aloft in your pliers, a small trophy of bone and decay. There we are, you pant, as if you've just won an arm wrestle. The demon is evicted. Thomas spits a mouthful of blood onto the dirt floor, his entire body trembling. He gives you a look that is a mixture of gratitude and the purest terror. He hands you a single copper coin, his hand shaking. It's low pay for the amount of trauma you've just inflicted, but it's enough to buy bread tonight. He stumbles out of your shop, holding his jaw, leaving you alone with the metallic smell of blood and the echo of his scream. You toss the tooth into a bucket that already contains several others. You wipe the pliers on your apron, ready for the next client. It might be a haircut. It might be a bloodletting to balance the humors. It might be a broken leg that needs setting. You're not sure. You are a master of many trades, all of them involving a discomforting proximity to the pain and misery of others. And the day is just beginning. Your next client is of a different breed entirely. It's not a common laborer with a tangible, honest injury. It's Mistress Beatrice, the wife of a wealthy wool merchant. She glides into your shop, her fine clothes creating a rustle of disapproval at the general state of your establishment. She doesn't have a gaping wound or a swollen jaw. She has a malady. She complains of fatigue, a lingering sadness, and a general sense of nervous dread. In modern terms, she might be suffering from anxiety or depression. In your time, however, she is simply unbalanced. You are less a medical professional and more a freelance fluid manager, and it's time to manage some fluids. You put on your most learned and serious expression, the one you use when you have absolutely no idea what you are doing. You listen intently to her complaints, nodding sagely. This is the art of the diagnosis. You feel her pulse, not because you know what it means, but because it looks professional. You ask to see her tongue. You peer into her eyes. Your diagnostic tools are superstition, a good guess, and an unwavering belief in your own nonsense. After a few moments of profound contemplation, you deliver your verdict with unearned confidence. Mistress Beatrice, you declare, your case is quite clear. It is an imbalance of the humors. This is your go-to diagnosis for anything that isn't a broken bone or a visible hole in the body. It's the medieval equivalent of telling someone to clear their browser cache. You have, you continue, an excess of phlegm, making the spirit sluggish, and a touch too much black bile, which brings about the melancholy. She looks at you, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hope. She has a name for her suffering. Now, it doesn't matter that the name is complete gibberish. The cure, you explain, is simple. You must relieve the body of these excess fluids to restore its natural equilibrium. The goal of the treatment isn't to make the patient better, but to make the disease less comfortable so it decides to leave. The prescribed treatment is, of course, bloodletting. You have her sit, and you roll up the sleeve of her fine linen dress, revealing a pale, delicate arm. You consult your chart, a beautifully illustrated, but medically useless diagram that shows which part of the body is governed by which sign of the zodiac. It's a horoscope for organs. Ah, yes, you murmur. The liver is governed by Jupiter. We should let from the basilic vein. You tie a strip of leather tightly around her upper arm. The vein, blue and prominent, rises to the surface. Mistress Beatrice closes her eyes and begins to pray softly. You take out your lancet, a small, sharp blade designed for this very purpose. You wipe it on a slightly cleaner section of your apron. You place the point of the blade against her skin. A small prick, you lie. You make a quick, practiced incision. It's not deep, but it's enough. A dark bead of blood wells up and then begins to flow in a steady, thin stream. You expertly position a small brass bowl underneath. You watch the blood collect. This is another crucial part of the science. You must observe the fluid for signs. Is it flowing too slowly? That's the sluggishness you predicted. Does it seem dark in color? That's the black bile, plain as day. You offer a running commentary of these observations to Mistress Beatrice, reinforcing the accuracy of your diagnosis and the necessity of the treatment. You see how it flows? Sluggish. The body is eager to be rid of it, you say, with the authority of a man who has just proven his own theory. The bowl slowly fills. Mistress Beatrice grows paler. Her breathing becomes shallow. She complains of feeling dizzy and lightheaded. Excellent, you exclaim, a sign that the bad humors are departing the body. The spirit is being cleansed. When the bowl is about half full in amount, you determine based on nothing more than pure instinct. You remove the tourniquet and press a pad of linen against the small wound. The procedure is complete. Mistress Beatrice slumps in the chair, looking drained and exhausted. She didn't feel cured, but she definitely felt ... emptier, which, in your professional opinion, was close enough. You help her to her feet, assuring her that after a day of rest and a light broth, she will feel her spirits lift considerably. She believes you. She wants to believe you. She pays you handsomely far more than the farmer with the real physical agony and leaves your shop, walking slowly and unsteadily. You look at the bowl of her blood, a testament to your craft. Congratulations, you've successfully treated. A case of having too much blood in your body. You dispose of the contents into the street gutter, give the bowl a quick rinse, and place it back on the table, ready for the next imbalance you're called upon to correct. It's a good business, this game of humors. As long as people have feelings they can't explain, you'll have a diagnosis, a cure, and a steady income. Just as you finish cleaning the brass bowl, the door to your shop bursts open, admitting not a client, but a crisis. Two rough-looking men haul a third between them, his leg a mangled, bloody ruin. He's a quarry worker, they explain breathlessly. A block of stone slipped and crushed his shin. You take one look at the leg, and your stomach tightens. The bone is shattered, protruding through the skin in several places, and the flesh around it is already taking on a dark, unhealthy color. The smell of dirt, blood, and the faint, sweet odor of corruption is beginning to rise. There is no setting this. There is no balancing of humors that will fix this. When a part of the body is this far gone, your medical chart offers only one terrifying solution. You must remove the corruption to save the whole. You must perform an amputation that you adopt your most somber professional tone. The leg is lost, you announce to the man's companions. The injured man, delirious with pain, seems to understand, and a low, hopeless moan escapes his lips. The poison will spread to his heart if we do not act. I can take the limb. It is his only chance. This is the brutal calculus of your profession. You don't offer cures. You offer slightly better odds than doing nothing. His friends, seeing no other option, agree. The patient's only job is to try and not die of sheer terror before you even start. There is no operating theater, only your multi-purpose room of haircuts and horrors. The surgical team will be the two friends whose main qualification is their strength. Their job will be to hold the patient down. Anesthesia is a theory. Screening is a reality. You provide the patient with a full waterskin of your strongest, cheapest brandy, instructing him to drink as much as he can, as quickly as he can. It won't stop the pain, but with any luck, it will dull his senses enough to keep him from dying of shock. You give his friends a swig as well. They will need it that you prepare your tools. You lay them out on the stained wooden table, a sharp, heavy knife, your bone saw, and several cauterizing irons heating in the brazier until they glow a menacing cherry red. You instruct the men to lay their friend on the table and hold him fast. One holds his arms, the other his good leg. You give the patient a thick leather strap to bite down on. He looks at you, his eyes wide with a primal fear that transcends time. This is the precipice of human suffering. You take a deep breath, mutter a quick prayer that you don't mess this up too badly, and begin. You work fast. Speed is the only form of mercy you can offer. With the knife, you make a deep, circular cut through the muscle and flesh of his thigh, well above the mangled shin. The man's scream is instantaneous, a sound muffled to a gut-wrenching groan by the leather strap. The friends strain, their knuckles white, holding their struggling companion. The scent of fresh blood fills the room. Then you pick up the saw. You are not just a surgeon. You are a carpenter, and his leg is a piece of rotten wood that must be removed. You place the teeth of the saw against the exposed femur and begin to draw it back and forth. The sound is the stuff of nightmares, a wet, grating, crunching noise that seems to go on for an eternity. The patient convulses on the table, a wild, thrashing animal of pure agony. The men holding him shout encouragement, their own faces pale and beaded with sweat. You focus only on the task, on keeping the line straight, your arms pumping like a woodsman felling a tree. Finally, with a last horrible snap, you are through. The lower leg comes free in your hand. You drop it into a bucket with a grim thud. But you are not done. The worst is yet to come. The stump is a horrifying fountain of blood. You shout, "Now!" And one of the friends, prepared for this, hands you the cauterizing iron. It hisses. In the air, you press the glowing, flat head of the iron firmly against the open wound. The patient's scream tears through the leather strap as the smell of cooking flesh fills the shop. The sizzle is sickening, but the flow of blood slows, then stops. The wound is sealed. The smell of burning flesh means the surgery was a success. For now, the patient has fainted, a small mercy. His friends look at you, their faces a mixture of horror and awe. You have done something terrible and miraculous. You have mutilated their friend, and in the same motion, saved his life. You instruct them on how to bind the stump, giving them a salve made of pig fat and herbs that will probably do nothing, but might prevent the bandage from sticking. You take your payment, a small handful of coins, and watch as they carefully lift their unconscious friend and carry him away. You are left alone, your arms aching, your clothes splattered with blood, the ghost of a scream still ringing in your ears. You look at the leg in the bucket. You look at the blood on the floor. It's all in a day's work for the man who stands as the last desperate barrier between a common man and the grave. For weeks, your life falls into a grim rhythm of blood, bone, and coin. You are respected, in a way. People fear you, but they need you. You are the man who can offer a sliver of hope in a world filled with pain. You are a pillar of the community, albeit a terrifying, blood-splattered one. But then the rumors begin. They start as whispers on the docks, tales from sailors about a strange sickness in a port city to the south. A fever that takes a man in a day, leaving dark, swollen buboes in its wake. The pestilence. At first, it's a distant horror, a story, to be told around the fire. Then it arrives. A rat catcher is the first to fall ill, and a merchant's entire family is wiped out in 3 days. Fear, a far more contagious disease than any plague, sweeps through the town. The streets grow quiet. People eye each other with suspicion. A cough is met with glares of terror. And then they bring the first victim to you. She is a young woman, burning with fever, her skin covered in dark splotches. Her family lays her at your door, their faces a mask of desperate hope. You see the unmistakable, grotesque swelling in her neck. Your blood runs cold. All your knowledge, all your charts of humors and zodiacs, all your confidence with a saw or a lancet, it all evaporates. Your medical knowledge is a wooden shield against a cannonball. You are a man who knows how to fix a broken chair, and you are being asked to stop an earthquake. The smart choice is to bar your door, to flee, to save yourself. But you hesitate. Where would you go? Every town will soon be a death trap. And a small, dark part of you, The part that is a showman and a charlatan is grimly curious. This is the ultimate test. You are facing the greatest malady of your time. What good is a healer who runs from sickness? You bring her in. You are no longer a surgeon. You are a general fighting a war on a battlefield you cannot see, against an enemy you do not understand. You throw everything you have at it. Believing the disease is carried on a miasma, a cloud of foul air, you burn everything you have that makes smoke. Juniper branches, rosemary, incense, even scraps of leather, until your shop is a thick, choking fog of smells that does nothing but make your eyes water. You consult your books, which offer a dozen contradictory and useless cures. You create poultices of crushed onions, arsenic, and dried toad, and apply them to the swollen buboes. The woman only screams in more pain. The most direct and terrifying treatment is to lance the buboes themselves, to let the poison out. Holding your breath, you take your sharpest blade to the dark swelling. The substance that erupts is a foul, black and putrid liquid. The stench is unimaginable. The woman shudders, and within the hour she is dead, but more come. The town descends into a walking nightmare. At church bells toll constantly for the dead. Carts piled high with bodies become a common sight. Your shop, once a place of mundane haircuts and occasional horror, is now nothing but a hospice of last resort. You are the last man people see before they meet their maker, a grim tour guide to the afterlife. You stop trying to cure. You simply try to offer comfort, a sip of wine, a wet cloth on a feverish head. You listen to last words and promises meant for loved ones who are likely already dead themselves. You are no longer a barber, a surgeon, or a charlatan. You are a witness at the end of the world. Days blur into a smoky, feverish haze. You barely eat. You barely sleep. You move like a ghost through your own shop, surrounded by the dead and the dying. One evening, after the last cart has taken away the day's bodies, you are finally alone. The town outside is eerily silent. There are no dogs barking, no drunks singing. There is only the ceaseless tolling of the bell. You slump into your chair, the one where you've inflicted so much pain. You are exhausted to your very soul, and then you feel it. A strange warmth under your arm. A dull ache in your groin. Your heart stops. Slowly, with a hand that trembles uncontrollably, you unlace your tunic. You slide your fingers under your arm, your breath catching in your throat. You feel a small, hard, and exquisitely painful lump. It's no bigger than a pigeon's egg, but you know what it is. You have seen 100 of them. The plague didn't care about your theories. It didn't care about your poultices or your prayers. It was never the enemy. It was simply the house guest that had finally decided to introduce itself. You stare at your bloody, useless hands. The healer is now the patient. The final act has begun, and this time, you are the one on the table.